Who wants Chinese food? Come on, we love this stuff. I mean, seriously. There's something like 40,000 Chinese restaurants in America. That's 3 times more than Mickey D's. But we need to talk about what's in all that food. Or specifically, what's not. MSG. You've heard all the horror stories. That this stuff can mess with you. We're talking sweating, rapid heartbeat, and nausea. These aren't feelings you want while you eat. And these days, in almost every Chinese restaurant, you'll see no MSG added. But the stuff's been around since the early 1900s. It was all fine and dandy until the late 60s and early 70s. That's when a doctor wrote a letter to the New England Journal of Medicine and described his symptoms after eating Chinese food. And that led to a lot of wild headlines, books, and investigations. Now, there were some huge holes in the science, but it was enough to freak people out, to the point where Chinese restaurant syndrome was a legit medical diagnosis into the 80s. But when you break down what this stuff is, you'll see there's nothing to be scared of. In science terms, MSG is monosodium glutamate, and glutamate is found in stuff like meat, dairy, and vegetables. And the monosodium part simply means they made glutamic acid into a salt form. And these days, there have been all sorts of legit studies done, like one done in 2000. It was the largest double-blind placebo study ever. And they couldn't get close to reproducing negative reactions to MSG. And keep in mind, Chinese food contains a bunch of spices, which are just as likely to mess with you, especially if you don't eat them very often. So about that Chinese food, the MSG isn't going to be a problem. But don't expect to see it show up on the menu anytime soon, because when we drop like $17 billion a year on the stuff, your local noodle joint isn't going to risk that kind of cash for one ingredient.